Sounds you like. Here we go with John Lee Hooker.
Boom, 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 boom. Gonna shoot you right down. Right off of your feet.
I'm 5 years old, and I'm riding on the bus, and I can't sit down, and I'm asking my brother why. And then, a white guy would get on and sit in the seat. And I said, they sitting there?
That was the law back then.
Oh, yeah. Talk that talk. Walk that walk.
Her name is Rosa Parks, and she got on the bus and she wouldn't give up her seat.
They called Rosa Parks the mother of the civil rights movement because she was the one that got it going.
You'd never, ever expected this lady would start a revolution like she did. But as I say, there comes a time.
Rosa Parks is my auntie. To me, she's just Aunt Rosie. A lot of people have heard of my auntie, but they really don't know what she actually did.
As far as I can remember, I resisted the idea of being mistreated and pushed around because of my race. And I felt that all people should be free regardless of their color.
Rosa Parks is my favorite hero. She was brave enough to not get up. She refused to get up.
In one amazing moment, she changed the course of American history.
Now, if you was white, you'd be all right. If you was brown, stick around. But as you black, brother.
Growing up in the South was very, very different from now. You couldn't go to the park or the zoo. Couldn't try on clothes in a store.
They had different water fountains in different schools.
All of those stores that you see full of ice cream and sundaes and everything, but you couldn't go in and have any.
Now, if you was white, she's all right. If you was brown, stick around. But if you was black...
Rosa Parks was raised a little different. She was raised that she was just as good as anyone else.
My auntie Rosa Parks told me, and I'm as good as anybody else, and nobody can take that away from me.
My auntie Rosa was a seamstress. Her friends were maids, cooks, regular working people. I think that they were tired of being looked down upon.
We had to clean house, wash, iron, and attend to children. I could nurse their babies, but I could not drink out the same cup. When I started cleaning closets out, I found those white sheets. I had to put them back in the trunk.
When I was in high school, there's these niggers that thought they was all better than us whites. Sometimes we'd get them with baseball bats. We'd take them and let them know that we was mighty whitey.
My grandpa used to tell me stories about the Ku Klux Klan. They would go around and kill black people just because of the color of their skin.
People were taught to stand there and take it, because if you fought back, then that means you were next.
But it wasn't just the Klan. It was the police, the courts, and sometimes even the bus drivers who could make your life miserable.
First 10 seats were reserved for white folks, even if there were no white folks on the bus.
The system was different from town to town, but the intent was always the same: the blacks in the back.
We didn't have any car. We didn't have any transportation. We had to ride the bus. And we was on the bus just like this. He'd holler, "Get back! Get back, niggas! Get back!"
One day in 1943, Mrs. Rosa Parks got on the bus to go home and had an incident she would never forget.
She got on the bus and paid her money. And she could see that the back door was very crowded. So she headed down the aisle to the colored section.
now, go around.
Can you imagine putting your money in the box and having to get off the bus and go around to the back door to get on the bus?
Woman, did you hear what I said? You need to get on off now, go around. Come on now.
She didn't see where she would have to get off, since she was already in the bed.
He was about to hit her. I mean, just really hit her in the face. And she told him, "You better not hit me."
She was shy and she was quiet and timid, but inside it's like something more.
Off my bus, I got just about enough of this. Go on.
She stood there and she swore she would never get on the bus again if he was the driver.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking, marching up the freedom's lane.
It would be 12 more years before Rosa Parks started a revolution to civil rights.
Her husband had always been involved in the early stages of civil rights, but he didn't want her to get involved because he said she wouldn't be able to run fast enough to get away from the police. She got involved anyway, working with Mr. E.D. Nixon.
E.D. Nixon was my father. He was 6'4", had a very deep voice, and he hated segregation.
E.D. Nixon was a man that wanted equality.
My dad put Mrs. Parks in charge of a youth group, a group of teenagers she was teaching about civil rights.
She would invite us to her home, especially during the civil rights movement. We thought it was safe to go there.
And we would sit on her floor, and she talked about freedom.
I was 12 or 13 years old, and I recall traveling around the state with Miss Parks, meeting other young people.
Rosa Parks always had a group of kids with her, training them to be somebody.
At that time, there were so many battles to be fought. Mrs. Parks had a friend whose son was unfairly accused of raping a white woman. He was 17 years old.
Rosie was very saddened by it, and she did everything she could to try to help him get out, but it was useless because this was a black boy being picked up for rape. And they waited till he became an adult 4 years later before they gave him the electric chair.
The situation was so hopeless. A lot of black people simply left, including Rosa Parks' only brother.
He left Alabama, never came back.
It broke my auntie's heart.
Not all whites treated blacks so badly. Some could see the injustices very clearly and set out to do what they could to help.
Rosa Parks worked for Virginia Durr, and they became good friends.
Mrs. Parks would come in Saturday, and she and my mother would sit in the back bedroom and sew and talk.
Mrs. Durr decided to sponsor her at a retreat called Highlander in the foothills of Tennessee, where the people were very excited about a new idea, nonviolence. And for the first time in her life, she lived with white people, ate with them, sang songs with them.
The main thing she learned that she was among white people and was treated equally.
Rosa Parks came home from Highlander knowing that she was not alone, that she could take a stand, and maybe even make a difference. And it started on a bus.
On
On December 1st, 1955, after working all day, very tired, I got the bus to go home.
Cleveland Avenue bus was very crowded, and just back of where the last white seat was, there was one vacancy. And I don't know why somebody else had not taken that seat. I took that last vacant seat.
Mrs. Parks made one mistake that day. She didn't notice who was driving.
The third stop, there were some whites getting on, and there was one white man standing.
Listen here, y'all need to get up now and give me them seats. Go on, 1, 2, 3, 4, let's go.
After I had taken a seat on the bus, the driver demanded that I give this seat up to a white man.
And I remembered him instantly because I had not forgotten his face.
Let's go. Come on now. Y'all best make light on yourselves and give me them seats. Let's go. Move it. Here you go.
What that man was demanding was that 4 black people got up so that just one white man could sit down.
I just moved next to the window, so he asked me if I was going to stand up. I said, no, I'm not.
Woman, are you going to give me that seat?
I didn't feel that I was being treated as a human being. I refused to give up this seat. I said no, and I wouldn't give it up.
Take notice, Mrs. Parks was not sitting in the white section of the bus. She was sitting in the black section. But if they needed that seat for whites, you were out of there.
And he said, well, if you don't stand up, I'm going to call the policeman and have you arrested.
Well, that's what I'll do. That's what I'll do. I'll have you guys arrested, sure enough.
I felt that I had had enough, and this was truly the end of being pushed around.
It was